Thanks for having me today, Tim. The presentation today is largely an extract from our business strategy update, which we announced on the 21st of July this year. So if we just start on slide number 3. IOUpay is a fintech business listed in Australia, but based in Malaysia, operating for nearly 20 years, providing secure digital payment processing for banks, telcos, and major corporates in Malaysia and Indonesia. The company is focused on large communities of low-risk consumers and merchants, which has led us to establish a highly scalable, market-leading BNPL platform servicing Malaysia and seeking to expand into the Southeast Asian region. Our goal is to be one of the leading digital transaction processors in the large and growing cashless economies of Southeast Asia. Next slide. Over its 20-year history, the company has established a number of core capabilities that set the foundation for successful growth. We have developed a trusted and secure technology platform, a highly targeted customer acquisition plan, and specific digital marketing strategies. We have a sophisticated credit and risk management system and an experienced senior management team with expertise in wholesale debt funding, corporate finance, and M&A. This has led us to a number of highlights and achievements over the past 12 months. Next slide. IOU's base business continues to perform strongly, reflecting the fundamental shift in consumer behaviours towards digital transactions. There are now over 350 million digital consumers in Southeast Asia, and this number continues to grow. However, credit is difficult to obtain, which is providing opportunities for BNPL and other consumer finance products. As a result, the company has launched its My IOU BNPL service in June 2021 and made a strategic investment in IDSB, one of Malaysia's largest finance companies. IOUpay is focused on product innovation to maintain market leadership, provide access to new customers, and to develop new revenue streams. Next slide. The business is very much focused on a measured approach to sustainable growth. The credit markets in Southeast Asia are far less sophisticated than Western markets like Australia, and a more conservative approach is required. We know what works in Southeast Asia, having operated in the banking and digital payment space for nearly 20 years. Next slide. The market opportunity for BNPL in Malaysia is large and growing, with gross merchandise value in 2021 of $287 million US, and it's predicted to grow at nearly 50% compound annual growth rate. Our current market share is 4% by volume, with a medium-term target of 10%. 45% of Malaysia's population is serviced by banks, and our target market is the top 2/3 of that. Next slide. We are currently operating in Malaysia, but our goal is to expand throughout Southeast Asia. The region's economic growth and uplift in incomes, along with high adoption rates for new technologies, is providing significant opportunities for creative fintech solutions. Next slide. Central to the company's strategy is establishing relationships with partners who manage large communities of merchants and consumers. Partnering with payment gateways facilitates efficient acquisition of merchants and streamlined technology integration. Our partners' interests are aligned with the company, providing additional oversight and management of merchant performance. In September this year, the company announced its first collaboration with a major Malaysian retail bank and is working to further leverage its relationships with the finance sector. Next slide. Product development is key to maintaining market leadership and generating new revenue opportunities. The company has developed a number of initiatives over the last 12 months. The co-branded My IOU Cash Plus Visa prepaid card is a potential game changer for My IOU. Once integrated to the My IOU platform, it will allow consumers to make purchases anywhere Visa is accepted and then convert those purchases into instalment payment plans. The key objectives of the initiative include to provide access to many more merchants, to drive growth in new consumers and enhance brand loyalty, and to generate additional revenue streams via potential future product enhancements. The rollout was launched in July and it's progressing well. Next slide. Another enhancement to our product capabilities is obtaining certification for Sharia Compliance, which is preferred by the large Islamic communities of Southeast Asia. In July, certification was confirmed and a partnership agreement was signed with Pay Halal, a Sharia compliant payment gateway. The company's first Sharia BNPL transactions were processed in early September. Sharia compliance and Islamic finance product capabilities provide a number of strategic growth opportunities. It opens access to new communities of consumers and merchants, positions the company to develop opportunities with Islamic banks and NBFIs, pre-positions the company for territory expansion into countries with large Islamic populations, and more broadly diversifies the company's offerings across the regulated credit markets. Next slide. The other major strategic initiative over the past year involves the investment in IDSB, which has resulted in IOUpay acquiring a 34% stake in that business. iDestinasi, or IDSB, is a specialised finance company established for over 40 years in Malaysia. IDSB is a consumer loan processing agent for banks with civil servant customers. In Malaysia, there are approximately 1.5 million civil servants. IDSB has a unique collections capability with its customer base that effectively eliminates credit risk, providing it with a competitive advantage over traditional lenders. The investment has compelling fundamentals with a unique competitive advantage, low capital needs with long-term recurring revenues, and significant growth potential. More importantly, the investment in IDSB has been made with the bigger picture in mind. It opens access to IDSB's high credit quality customers, and it broadens the base of consumer finance and collections capabilities to meet IOUpay's longer-term vision as a leading payment processor with diversified revenues. Next slide. Since we made our initial investment in IDSB, we have continued to collaborate and in September announced a strategic partnership agreement. This is all about leveraging the close relationship with our investment partner to unlock commercial opportunities for diversified growth. We've already got our first project underway under the agreement. It is a local market first, short-term bridging loan product for new federal government employees. Strategically, the bridging loan will help secure customers for IDSB, and both companies are set to benefit. This is the first of what the company believes will be a series of initiatives to develop a broader base of consumer finance offerings with recurring revenue streams. IOUpay benefits not just from the new products, but also via its strategic shareholding in IDSB. Next slide. Based on the presentation I've been through today, IOUpay has a clear established pathway to profitability. The first year from launch of the MyIU BNPL offering was about building the base of merchants and strategic partnerships and improving the product model and credit risk framework in the Malaysian marketplace. We are now well into the second phase and seeking to build critical mass with interim debt facilities and preparations for expansion into a second jurisdiction in Southeast Asia. Phase 3 will be all about scaling up with expansion based upon wholesale debt funding and growth across jurisdictions with innovative product offerings. In summary, IOUpay is a well-established fintech operating in the high-growth markets of Southeast Asia with a range of product opportunities to drive the business expansion going forward. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Paul. A few questions here. Just going back at the beginning of COVID for us, we ran a Buy Now, Pay Later webinar. It was the biggest webinar we ever had. We had over 1,000 people online, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And since then, the sector's been hit. The industry's been hit by talk of competition, regulation, funding issues, etc. How's the perception of the industry in Malaysia, and how is sentiment going to change here in Australia?
Well, IOUpay is a lot more than just Buy Now, Pay Later. We're looking at all forms of short-term consumer finance, and particularly instalment plans to comply with Sharia requirements. So there are issues in terms of the public perception of Buy Now, Pay Later. We believe that our business has been set up in a way that, and our product lines are established to be as very fair and reasonable to the consumers. We're targeting high credit quality customers working with strategic partners. So we're not going after top line growth, seeking to just generate large revenues off the back of high volumes of unsophisticated borrowers who may be extending themselves. So we're very particular about our product structures and the customers that we're targeting. There is some significant growth in the region with the product generally. And the regulators in Malaysia are looking to establish a new Consumer Credit Act. And the intention, I believe, is that Buy Now, Pay Later will be brought in and regulated within that Consumer Credit Code. We welcome regulation. We believe that'll be good for the sector and the product set. We believe that the products that we've got are going to suit and fit within the anticipated regulatory frameworks. And just as recently Singapore has brought out some guidelines in terms of how BNPL should operate, we've been through those and we believe that we comply with those. So we think we're well positioned to move forward in light of competition and regulation.
Thank you. And there's a question here: is the digital banking space a pathway you'd consider?
Well, we've got a long history in terms of digital payment processing, authentication of digital payments. So we've got the relationships there. There's certainly potential for us to be involved in that space. As to the exact nature of our role at this stage, it would be around the fintech solutions rather than the full service lending proposition.
And what about the cost to acquire customers? That seems to be one of the big impediments to the Buy Now, Pay Later space. It seems to be expensive. How do you manage that?
Well, I think that's where our focus is on strategic partners, accessing customer sets through those routes. And that's how we, in terms of efficient access of acquisition of merchants, but also consumers. So recently we announced a partnership with Bank Simpanan Nasional. It's a large retail bank, and collaborating with partners like a retail bank and also our investment into IDSB to access high credit quality customers certainly lowers the customer acquisition cost.
And Paul, just finally, what's the pathway in terms of time frame look like to profitability?
We haven't announced any forecast on that, so I won't do that here now. But we've certainly got a clear a path in terms of the milestones that we need to hit. The portfolio's generating cash, and we believe the product model is working. We've got our strategy of targeting strategic targeting of customer communities, consumer communities, is working in that our credit quality is good with a low non-performing loan level. It's still modest, and so that's sort of one of the main metrics that we monitor. So we're all about now that we've been proving up the model and the business framework, we're all about now looking to build scale, and that's what's going to get us to the that break-even point and beyond.
Great, Paul. That's all we have time for. Appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you probably next year. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tim.